Hey guys, Greg here. So this video will cover my very last week in Canada. This week starts in PEI. So I went to Charlottetown first and I stayed there for 2 nights. The people in PEI are almost as friendly as the people in Newfoundland. Almost. One thing I did find different about PEI than the rest of Canada is they use almost all of their land. In any other province, if you hop on a highway and drive for an hour, eventually you're going to find yourself in the middle of a forest or a field. But in PEI, there's just a series of communities and farms and, well, signs of civilization. And another cool thing about PEI is the traffic lights. Red lights are squares, green lights are circles, and yellow lights are diamonds. It's like driving through an amusement park. So anyways, I went up to the North Shore where the National Park is, saw the Green Gables house, a place with doors so low I actually had to duck. Now I know what it feels like to be 6'10". Unfortunately, Cavendish Beach was closed, but the whole North Shore is just a beautiful area. I camped by a lighthouse that night, and the next morning I made my way to New Brunswick, the last province on my list. Driving the Confederation Bridge is pretty cool. I think it's got to be the longest bridge that I've ever been on. It's the longest bridge in Canada. First stop in New Brunswick was Moncton. There they have Magnetic Hill, a famous optical illusion that makes it seem like your car is rolling uphill by itself. I made a separate video for that, the link's in the description. The coolest part of New Brunswick, however, is the Bay of Fundy. More specifically, Hopewell Rocks. Hey guys, so this is the high tide at Hopewell Rocks in New Brunswick. So a few hours ago, about 4 hours ago, I was walking along the beach here and around those rocks. You can actually go for a walk down the beach for a couple of kilometers at low tide. And then at high tide, you can barely see anything. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty high tide. Well, it's the highest tide in the world, so I guess it can't be beat. But yeah, I decided to wait around for a few hours just to see the high tide, and definitely worth it. Pretty cool stuff. This whole beach just disappears in the span of a few hours. Pretty incredible. After leaving Fundy, I made my way to St. John. Not to be confused with St. John's. St. John's is in Newfoundland, and it's the greatest place on earth. St. John is in New Brunswick, and it's quite the opposite. So skipping ahead a day, I wanted to spend one more night camping in Canada. So I found this long boat launch area, kind of like a bay that stretches out into the water. I got there at 6:30 in the evening, and by 8 o'clock, it was pitch black outside. I was dealing with 100km/h winds, and I noticed the tide was rising dangerously fast. But I did have an internet connection, so I looked up when high tide was. 10 o'clock. I swear, if I stayed there that night, the ocean would have swallowed my car. The tides in New Brunswick are insane, insane. Anyways, I made it out alive and I ended up sleeping at a dirt road pull-off that night. The next day, I went to St. Stephen, my last stop in Canada. So next week will be my first week in the US, all done with Canada. So this weekend's in St. Stephen. Thanks again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I will see you, same time, different place, next week.